Good afternoon. Gerard Crockwell here. I want to talk to you about COVID-19 and the reopening of our schools. It seems that government is hell-bent on reopening the schools at any cost. I, like most people in this country, believe it is time to reopen the schools and get our children back into the classrooms, get their learning started, and do it in a safe, managed, prudent way. When the announcement of the roadmap came out, a number of questions were raised with me by members of the public, by school managers, and by teachers. For example, I was asked to deal with questions such as entering school. Do primary school staff have to take temperatures of pupils on the way into school? Are principals entitled to send a child home straight away if a child or student presents with a temperature? Will a school have to administer some sort of medicine for a child who's waiting to be picked up? Returning home from holidays, where does responsibility lie with respect to establishing that a child who was out of the country on a continental holiday has observed whatever rules are laid down by government with respect to self-isolation of the family before they present at school? I was asked about parental access to the school. This is normally done by way of appointment with the school, but is this to be banned totally? I was asked about after-school activities. For example, who will ensure that classrooms used for after-school activities will be sanitised before the children move from other classrooms into that classroom? Who will sanitise recreation areas where there are sporting activities going on? And if there's a night school, who will sanitise before the night school starts and who will sanitise before the day school starts? These are reasonable questions with respect to vulnerable children or children of vulnerable parents or family members who may, for one reason or the other, be decided by the family that they shouldn't attend school. Who will be responsible for delivering the education to that child? Is it not the case that the Department of Education should put in place a single education e-learning portal for all subjects so that children or students at second level can access those subjects while self-isolating at home? Teachers involved in engineering subjects, in woodwork subjects, in home economics and the like have raised the question that classrooms built in the 1950s with windows high up, poor ventilation, in some cases no ventilation, no direct ventilation at all, classroom size of 85 metres square as against the modern classroom where it's 140 metres square. There is problems there with respect to distance. There's problems there with respect to ventilation. How is that going to be handled? Are we to cancel those classes altogether? Then a number of general questions. For example, we were asked, will the Department of Education provide resources by way of budget for a school to purchase cleaning products way over those that are currently being provided? We were asked what plans were in place to provide extra teaching staff to primary schools, given the crisis that already exists with the poor pay and conditions and the dual pay system that exists in education. I don't believe it's going to be possible to hire the number of teachers the department has been talking about. With respect to PPE, again, will PPE be given to each staff member? I hear now that the central procurement system is running into problems with respect to the resourcing of PPE. I believe some of the suppliers are not even answering the phones now, such as the demand for the stuff. Supervising a student who may be placed in an isolation room or presents with a temperature during the day. Who's going to do that? Special education needs teachers. The Department of Education were saying that the special teacher could be used as a substitute. But if that happens, what about the hours of special education that the children in that school are entitled to? I see problems down the road, maybe not this year, maybe not next, but there will be problems. Provision being made with respect to social distancing, staggering opening and closing times. These are problems that principals are trying to deal with and we're trying to get answers. The provisions made for ancillary staff. Who may need to self-isolate. How do you replace, for example, a caretaker? How do you replace an SEN? An SNA? How do you replace those? There are 24 questions that I've asked of the Department of Education. I got this document, which consists of 3 pages, and in the 3 pages there are 2 of those questions answered. One deals with the temperature, where it says the health advice is that for schools is that on-site temperature taking is not recommended because fever is not a consistent symptom of COVID-19 in children and would result in delayed school entry. Parents do not need to take children's temperatures every morning. That's really interesting. And the second question of the 24 that I asked was, what if somebody in the school presents with COVID-19? How are we to handle that? And the answer that came back was, where there's a suspected or confirmed case of COVID-19 amongst staff or pupils, school needs to maintain both staff and pupil confidentiality at all times and must follow the instructions of the HSE Public Health. And it goes on then to say that the HSE Public Health will inform staff or parents of students who've come in close contact with a diagnosed case via the contact tracing process. Contacts all relevant persons with where a diagnosis of COVID-19 is made and advise of appropriate action on a case-by-case basis that should be taken vis-a-vis the operation of the school. The messages are ambiguous. We are told not, us adults are not to take public transport to go to work. Stay at home, they said. But they want us to put our children on public transport in the morning to come into school. What about a school bus in rural Ireland where there are 4 or 5 schools being serviced by one bus? What if one child presents with COVID-19 or one student presents with COVID-19 from that bus? Must all of the children stay at home? There is no clear answers. And the guidelines that came out from government yesterday have only caused more frustration and more annoyance than what we currently have. We are not ready today, and I do not see us being ready at the end of this month to open schools. When we open, we should do so in a managed, prudent, safe way. We must stop the rush, slow down and get it right. Thank you for listening.